Welcome to APA's weekly webinar. My name is Billy Zadig, Manager Special Projects for APA. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. The webinar recording will be posted to APA's webpage later this afternoon. You'll receive a follow-up email in the next couple of days with a link to the webpage where all webinar recordings are housed, as well as a link to our upcoming webinars. We have webinars planned out through the end of 2021, and many are open for registration. Professional continuing education and AIA-CLU credits are being offered for today's program. If you are an AIA professional requiring a certificate, please send an email to me at Billie, B-I-L-L-I-E, @apa.org, along with your AIA membership number if you have not done so in the past. All attendees are in listen-only mode. Please type your questions in the chat box, and they will be answered in the order they are received. If we run out of time and we still have questions, responses will be sent directly to the person asking a question by one of our presenters. If you are just calling in, make sure you send me an email at Billie, B-I-L-L-I-E, @apa.org to let me know so I can send you a certificate if you requested one. The system only recognizes you if you log in. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn this over to Stephanie Cohen and Kimberly Asner from Country Casual Teak. Ladies, take it away.
Hi, thank you all for joining us for the All About Teak Wood webinar. My name is Kimberly Asner. I'm the Product Development Manager at Country Casual Teak. I've been with the company for over 10 years. Country Casual Teak has been selling furniture for almost 45 years, celebrating our 45th next year. Over those years, we've traveled the world looking for the best teak and best practices for manufacturing teak. So we think this puts us in a unique position to be able to teach you everything that we've learned about why teak is so great. Today, we will be going over the history of teak wood, the natural properties of teak and its benefits, teak silviculture. We'll tell you how to grade teak, why teak is sustainable, how to care for the teak. We'll also go over some common misconceptions about teak. We'd love to show you some of our projects using teak furniture. And then, as Billy said, we'll do a Q&A at the end. For teak, the botanic name for teak is Tectona grandis, often called the king among woods. Teak trees are native to Southeast Asia in an area that now includes India, Myanmar, and Thailand. Trees grow up to 130 feet high and are prized for having a single straight trunk. The best outdoor furnishings are constructed of teak from mature trees, which are anywhere from 35 to 60 years old. It does take a full 35 years for a teak tree to mature. The center of the teak log is called the heartwood. This is where the best wood comes from. And teak is a renewable resource. Today, much of the world's teak is farmed on sustainable plantations. Teak was first used in Southeast Asia, where it grew naturally. It was used for homes, tools, and temples. Parts of the teak tree were even used as medicine. The bark was brewed into a tea-like drink that many found useful in combating fever, headaches, and stomach pain. In the Middle Ages, teak was used in the construction of seafaring ships. The demand for teak in the shipbuilding industry grew in the 17th century, eventually leading to the establishment of the first teak plantation in 1680 in Sri Lanka. When the British Empire ruled the waves, naval and merchant ships were built of teak. Teak's naturally dense grain and resistance to warping, rot, and pests made it ideal for ships' hulls and decking. When Britain's teak shipping fleets were decommissioned, the teak was recycled into some of the first outdoor park benches and into just use form. This photo shows our classic British-inspired monarch bench, pictured on a present-day college campus in the U.S. But you can just as easily imagine it in black and white, taken 100 years ago in an English park or grand estate. Teak is highly prized today for its natural weatherproof qualities, and you'll still find teak decking, rails, and veneer on the finest world-class gaps. Teak is a highly sought-out wood because of its natural weatherproof properties. It's a dense and heavy hardwood, somewhat difficult to work, but very strong and durable. Mature teak has a dense, straight grain. The wood has a high concentration of rubber oil, meaning that it needs no chemical treatment or surface protection to be used outdoors year-round in any climate. The natural properties of grade A teak make it ideal for outdoor furniture. It can withstand the outdoor elements. It resists rotting, warping, and splintering over time. It doesn't need extra finishes or treatments to last for years. And teak's dense, oily timbers are warm in winter and cool in summer. Furniture can be left out year-round without impacting the integrity of the wood, and can handle the heat, the cold, the snow. Absolutely. Like any natural material, teak wood is impacted by its environment. Exposure to UV rays, rain, and weather will affect the wood. However, if properly kiln-dried and manufactured, teak will outlast and outperform most other woods. Over time, teak's wood surface will oxidize to a light silvery gray color. The weathering process can cause the softer layers to wear, leaving a slightly raised grain that's more rough to the touch. Weathering to gray can take anywhere from 6 months to a few years, depending on exposure and weather conditions. When used indoors, the opposite happens. Untreated natural teak will absorb oils from people and the environment, causing it to turn a dark, rich, golden color.
Excuse me, Kim. We're getting a few complaints about audio.
Okay.
Could I ask you to try turning off your camera? It may help with the bandwidth.
Sure. Let's see if that's better.
It's a little better.
Okay, hopefully this will be good. Moving on to teak silviculture, which is the control and management of teak plantation forests. Teak plantations can be found all over the world, including Africa, Central and South America, and South Asia. Teak grows in clay and sandy soils and can be grown on sloping mountains, land that is not ideal for most other crops or otherwise unusable. Teak was originally brought to Indonesia 700 years ago by Burmese monks. Today, some of the largest, oldest, and best-run teak plantations are in Indonesia. Their plantations were first established in this former Dutch colony over 200 years ago to serve the growing shipping industry. Oops, sorry. I think I'm frozen. Here we go. Trees typically grow to full size in 35 years and are harvested according to careful market projections at anywhere from 35 to 60 years old. Due to this long growing cycle, teak production in Indonesia is operated by the Perhutani, a government organization. This ensures consistent ecological harvesting practices with a long-term commitment to the health and prosperity of the trees. The Perhutani also protects the plantation sites from illegal cutting and adheres to strict certification guidelines. The Perhutani manages about 9 million acres of plantation, 2.5 million of which are planted with teak. The Perhutani welcomes visitors, but it takes significant effort to get there. After 30-plus hours in the air and long drives through bumper-to-bumper traffic on unpaved roads, you too can be rewarded with a tour. The plantation shown here is in central Java, Indonesia. The Perhutani in uniform is taking cuttings from young saplings no taller than waist high. Plantation trees in Indonesia are products of a plus tree, one chosen for its large size and straight shape. Clones of the plus trees are planted nearby, and buds or nodes are collected over and over again. We currently have 600 plus tree clones in use. Progenies, Cuttings of the plus tree clones are propagated in nurseries for about 6 months before planting. Seeds are also collected from plus trees for domestic planting and selling on the international market. Plantations as far away as Costa Rica, Brazil, and Africa often use seeds from Indonesia. About 888 seedlings are planted per hectare, which is 100 square meters or about 2.5 acres. They're planted approximately 3 meters apart during the rainy season, typically December through January. Trees are pruned every 3, 5, and 7 years. Sites are thinned every 5, 10, and 15 years to remove trees that aren't straight or branched. After thinning, the remaining trees are tagged with a number. Thin trees are sold at a reduced price and used for handicrafts or lower-priced goods. After thinning, about 400 trees per hectare are left to grow to maturity. Girdling, which is removing the bark, and notching, which is cutting notches at the roots, both shown here in the soil, is done 2 years before harvesting, which slowly cuts the water supply to the tree so it's much drier when harvested. Girdled sites are marked, and local residents are allowed to use fallen bark as firewood and can plant food crops in between the trees on these sites. At 30 to 40 meters tall, fully mature trees are harvested. Harvesting is done in the dry season, typically April through June, when access to the remote and hilly terrain is easier. Each tree is cut into logs for furniture production, 2.5 to 3 meters long, and each log is documented. Logs are graded on site by a paraphernalia specialist according to the size and shape, and then stamped with a unique ID number, which follows the log all the way to the export of finished goods. The stumps and thinner top branches are sold or even given to local residents to use in making crafts or as firewood. Here is a photo of us during our tour. This is a 160-year-old teak tree. It's 177 centimeters, which is almost 6 feet in diameter. So I'm going to hand you off now to Stephanie.
All right. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen. Okay.
Looks good.
All right, so hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Cohen. I'm the Marketing and E-commerce Director at Country Casual Teak. I've been with the company about 3 years, and I'm gonna take you through the second half of our presentation. So we're gonna start off talking about grading teak. Now, teak is a very sought after wood because of the natural properties that Kim talked about, but not all teak is created equal. Throughout the harvesting and manufacturing process, trained graders rate the teak into one of 3 categories, A, B, or C. Grade A is the highest quality teak and comes from the center of the log, and you can see that right here. This is called the heartwood. And this is really where you're going to find the most natural oils and this rich golden color. Products that are manufactured with grade A teak are very durable, and it ensures consistency. As you move to the outer rings of the tree, that's where you're going to start to encounter the lower grades of teak. And this is often where you find natural defects such as knots and cracks and sapwood. And these are things that, of course, need to be avoided in production. Products made with these lower grades of teak are not going to be as weather resistant, and they can often rot or crack or be susceptible to pest damage. And here in this picture, you can see there was the heartwood, as we talked about, and then you can see here and over here the presence of sapwood, and that's usually noted by this kind of almost whitish color. Now, when you're looking at a piece of teak, there are several things that you want to look for in terms of determining whether it's a low quality piece or a high quality piece. In terms of low quality, one thing to look for is inconsistent moisture content. Now, of course, you can't see that, so we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. You want to look for that sapwood that we just saw in the previous picture. So up here, you can see a good example of a piece of teak. And when up here is that whitish color that I just talked about, and that's how you know there's some sapwood. You also want to look and see, is there any discoloration? You can see an example of that here, or perhaps an uneven dull color. Again, those are all indicators of a lower quality. Uneven grain, you can see an example here. Another thing you want to look for is some of those imperfections. So here, this is an example of a dead knot. Now you want to distinguish dead knots from live knots. So dead knots are when a branch of a tree has died and fallen off, and it leaves a marking like this. This will impact the integrity of the wood. A live knot is when a branch actually is still alive when the tree is harvested and then it's cut off. That will leave a marking. It'll actually almost kind of dissolve back into the tree, and that will not impact the integrity of the wood. So it's just important to understand the distinction there. And then of course, pest damage. Here is an example of wormholes, not something that you want to see in a good piece of teak. When you contrast all this with something down here, which is a piece of grade A teak, you can obviously see the difference. Again, this grade A teak is coming from the heartwood or the center of the log. It's going to have that rich golden brown color and that high concentration of natural oils. You're going to see a straight, close grain. To get back to the moisture content, so for us, when we're talking about outdoor furniture, we kiln dry our teak to an 8 to 12% moisture content. And then all this results in a piece of teak that is very glossy and smooth to the touch. Now, just as important as using grade A teak is the construction and craftsmanship of the furniture. So a couple things that you want that should be going on when the furniture is manufactured. Number one, all the timbers should be shaped and cut by hand with machine jigs. Number two, when selecting the pieces of teak that are going to go into a piece of furniture, you want to make sure that it's color matched and the grain is all in the same direction so that the final piece is very uniform in appearance. We always recommend using mortise and tenon joinery, and you can see an example of that here. This is what we use. So basically what happens is, actually I'm gonna come over here and show you. So the tenon over here is inserted into the mortise, and then once they're together, wooden groove dowels are put through the holes to keep it together. And we found that this is the best way to keep the joint durable and allow it to withstand the elements. Some other things to look for, finger joints should be used on stress points, and lamination should never be used in place of other materials. And lastly, no matter what it is, all the pieces should go through a strict QA process. So that could be weight testing, drop testing, even for umbrellas, something like wind testing. So you want to make sure that everything's being tested. And for example, if you're talking, looking at a piece of furniture, you should be able to easily understand what its weight capacity is due to all that testing. So the previous couple slides, we talked about what should happen during harvesting, what should happen during manufacturing. But if you're a consumer and you're looking for a quality piece of teak furniture, what are the things you should be looking for? How do you become a smart teak shopper? So number one, we always recommend that you ask about the grade of teak. What we found is that the term grade A teak has been overused a bit. So it's important for you to ask, what does that mean to you as a company? And we've talked about what that means to us in these previous slides, but you kind of want to understand what that means to whatever company you're looking at. Number two, you want to be a little bit cautious about pieces of furniture that already have finishes. So here you can see a piece of furniture, a chair up here that doesn't have any finishes. It's in its natural state. And you can see here that light white color that we've talked about earlier, which means the presence of sapwood. It's a little bit hard to see in this image, but there is some uneven grain and then some wormholes here and here. But if you put finish over it, a lot of these things get hidden. So again, it's just something that you want to be cautious of when you're purchasing a piece of furniture that already has a finish. Second thing you want to look for is, or third I should say, is that, again, that mortise and tenon joinery. So that's how we construct our furniture, and we've found, again, that this is the best way to allow the joint to expand and contract with the outdoor elements, because it's all done with wood, and so it's likely to just kind of react to the elements. Whereas if you use, metal bolts or screws, it's not going to do that expanding and contracting, and it'll often loosen the joint over time. When metal hardware is necessary, we recommend that you look for brass or 316 or 304 stainless steel. Sometimes companies will use kind of a mystery metal, which is a combination of a variety of metals. And this will often rust or corrode, especially if you're going to use the furniture in a marine environment or by a pool. So you really want to be aware of what hardware is being used. And then last but not least, you always want to find out what is the warranty. Is the company willing to stand behind the product, and for what time frame are they giving you a warranty? Another topic that's always important to learn about for any company that you're dealing with is their stance on sustainability. It's important for the future of our planet, as well as the teak industry, to protect our teak trees as a natural resource. So you want to look at the company and see, do they have an ecological statement either on their website or something they can provide you? What's their stance on this? You also want to understand where they're sourcing their teak from. As Kim took you through, we source our teak from carefully managed plantations in Indonesia. There are teak plantations in other countries such as Costa Rica, Brazil, or Burma, but we have found that the strictest controls are in Indonesia. So again, it's just something important to identify. No matter where the plantation is that a company is working with, you want to make sure that they have a policy that for every tree that is felled, multiple are planted to replace it. Again, all for that sustainability of our teak trees. Throughout the process, responsible forestry practices should be employed. And last but not least, you want to make sure that they're striving for a zero waste policy. So Kim talked a little bit about any extra teak that our plantations have is either recycled or reused or given to locals for crafts and firewood. We also, at our warehouse, follow the same principles. So any extra teak is reused. Anything that we can recycle, we do. Again, you just want to make sure that they're striving for a zero waste policy. Hopefully, everyone's familiar with LEED certification. The U.S. Green Building Council, their mission is basically to make sure that any buildings that are designed and constructed are done in the most environmentally, socially, and healthy friendly way. Projects can earn points and achieve different certifications. The reason we bring this up is because teak is an environmentally friendly material. It has zero chemical content, and therefore it can help earn points towards a LEED certification. And there are a variety of levels, as I mentioned. And the benefit of having these LEED certifications are, one, usually if you're following these standards, you're going to encounter lower operating costs. If it's a dorm or an academic building, you're going to kind of have a peace of mind for your students and staff that they're in an environmentally friendly and healthy building. So it's just kind of a nice marketing appeal there. All right, now we're going to totally switch gears and we're going to talk about caring for teak. So as Kim mentioned, you can leave teak out year-round without any finishes and it will last for years. It will go through the natural weathering process and go from a golden color to a silvery gray patina. From there, how you care for the teak really depends on your end goal. So for example, if you're really just wanting to take a piece of weathered teak and give it a nice basic cleaning, then you can take some soap and water, or we make a teak cleaner. You can give it a nice cleaning, sand it if it feels rough to the touch, and then you'll be left with a nice silvery gray color. If you're looking to take your weathered teak back to a blondish color, you can clean it with a solvent-based cleaner. We make something called the two-part cleaner. You want to take a soft bristle brush and give it a good scrub, and that will get rid of the weathering and leave you with a nice blonde color on your teak. If you ultimately want to take teak back to its golden color, then you want to do that intense cleaning that I just talked about, and then use something like a golden sealer, apply that, and then you'll have the color back to its original color. Some do's and don'ts that we always like to review when it comes to caring for teak. When you're cleaning teak or adding a protectant, you always want to wear gloves and eye protection. You never know when something's going to splash, so you just want to make sure you're protected. We do recommend laying down a tarp, whether you're going to be on a grassy area or a concrete top. You just want to make sure it's protected so there's no stains or damage done. Whatever cleaning products you're using, we recommend that you test it on the underside of the furniture so it's not visible, and just make sure that it reacts well with the piece of furniture. We always encourage using sealants and protectants, whether that's to preserve the color or achieve a certain color, or to protect it from stains and mold. For dining tables or other pieces of furniture, if anything spills, we always recommend wiping it up right away so that it doesn't seep into the wood and cause stains. And again, there are protectants that can be applied to prevent these things from happening. And then lastly, we always recommend wiping or hosing down your teak in between cleanings just to get rid of any dirt or debris and to moisten it up. Some don'ts. Don't use teak oil on your furniture. This is a big misconception that we often hear from clients. Teak oil is not from teak trees. It can be linseed oil or tung oil or a mixture of the two. And actually it ends up doing more harm than good. It ends up leaving the furniture surface very sticky, and it can collect more debris, which can lead to mold. And sometimes it can even be turn black and gummy. So we do not recommend using teak oil on your furniture. We also don't recommend using any cleaners that are harmful to plants, lawns, animals, because it often, when you're cleaning, it kind of runs off. You want to make sure any products that you use are eco-friendly. When cleaning your teak, we don't recommend using any sort of steel wool. As you're scrubbing the teak, small flecks of the metal can get lodged in the grain and then rust and cause issues. So we don't recommend using that. If you are going to sand your teak, if it feels a little bit rough to the touch after cleaning, we recommend that you do it with the grain, not against the grain, so it doesn't scratch. And then lastly, and this is probably the biggest misconception that we get from clients, we don't recommend power washing your teak. This can actually cause damage to the wood. It can end up removing the softwood between the grains and cause a rough surface that will then attract more debris. And I wanted to show you this, where you can see this is a picture of teak that has been power washed, and you can really see those grooves and where the softwood has been taken away. So it's just not a good idea to use a power washer with your furniture, with your teak. Some other considerations, and Kim touched on this a bit. So again, when you have teak outdoors, it's going to go through that natural weathering process and turn to that silvery gray. But when you use teak indoors, it's going to oxidize and turn actually a darker golden color. If you're keeping your teak indoors, we just recommend wiping it down with a cloth to remove any dirt or dust. Another request that we often get from clients is, can I paint my teak? This is something that we advise against, just because we think it hides the natural beauty of teak, but also because, you know, teak, as we've talked about, is high in natural oils, and when you paint it, that's trapping the oils, and that can often lead to the paint kind of flaking off or bubbling. So what we ultimately say is, if you are going to paint your teak, work with somebody who really is an expert when it comes to paints, and who would understand what's the right paint to apply to teak to avoid some of these challenges. Another thing that we always like to let people know about is checking. So basically, end grain sealer is applied to any exposed end grains, and that locks in all these oils that we've been talking about. But over time, the sealer is going to wear away, and these oils are going to escape, and it's going to leave what's called checking, which you can see on the right-hand side. This is nothing to worry about. It doesn't impact the integrity of the wood, but it's just something that we want folks to be aware of. And certainly if you continue to seal your teak, then this would not happen. So we've talked about a lot of these misconceptions already, but it's just something that we like to kind of hammer home the point because we do come across these misconceptions so often. The number one is teak oil should be used on teak outdoor furniture to help it keep moist. As I mentioned, teak oil is not from a teak tree and often causes more harm than good and leads to more dirt and debris. So it's just not something that we recommend you applying to furniture. The best way to clean teak is to power wash it. Again, we just talked about this, but power washing actually can do more harm than good. It can remove that soft wood between the grains and then reveal places where more dirt and debris will hide. So again, power washing is not a good idea with teak. Teak does not do well in marine environments. Actually, this is not true because of teak's weatherproofing properties that we've talked about. It actually performs very well in marine environments. Kim talked about teak being used in ship construction with the British military. Today, teak is used in yacht decking quite often. So it actually performs quite well and will outperform other woods in these moist environments. And then lastly, and I think we've hammered this home throughout the entire presentation, teak requires a finish to be durable. It does not. You can leave teak outdoors year-round with no finishes. It will naturally weather to a silvery gray, and it's something that can last for many generations. So we thought we'd end with some case studies and examples of 3 schools who have chosen teak for some of their projects. So the first one is University of Virginia. During COVID, the university wanted to take some of their outdoor space in an area called the Blue Pavilion and transform it into an area where students could gather, dine, and study. And again, this was an empty space, and they said, you know what, as we all know that the safest place to be during that time, during the past year and a half, has been outdoors. So let's really transform this into a retreat for our students. So our team worked with the team at the University of Virginia. We created a variety of different layouts, different furniture assortments, and allowed the team to kind of see what they like. From there, we moved on to a more 3D rendering. So here you can see lounge furniture, done, of course, in the school colors of navy and orange. And we tried to create, social distancing between the groups of seating here, and then creating these large lounge areas where students could spread out among the seating. One other thing you'll notice here, we've used planters to kind of frame the space. Another rendering you can see here. So not only does it have the lounge area, but the dining as well. And we've used additional planters, umbrellas so that there's shade, and there was also some trash receptacles as well. Here you can see the photos of the final installation. Our team constructed all the furniture and placed it. And from what we're hearing, the students really enjoyed spending time out here. Again, knowing that, being outside was the safer place to be during the pandemic. Another project, now this one was pre-pandemic, so forgive the non-social distancing. Georgia Southern University acquired a new campus, and they were really looking to enhance the outdoor spaces and build upon what the campus already had. They wanted to bring additional seating throughout the campus, as well as some dining spaces, and also wanted to bring some school spirit and pride into the project. So you'll see what we did with some dining tables and benches, and then umbrellas with custom canopies. Here's an example of a courtyard. You can see a lot of the furniture that they already had, benches and side tables. There's also some planters and trash receptacles. So just a really nice courtyard with lots of seating. This is one of the new dining areas that was added. So you can see lots of tables and chairs in this beautiful setting. And then this was another dining area that was added. And here's a great example. You can see the custom umbrella canopies that were done in the school color. And then the school logo was added to add that sense of pride to the new campus. The next project, again, also pre-COVID, was American University. They were looking to redesign the space outside their Davenport Coffee Lounge. And basically their goals were twofold. One was to delineate walkways for ADA compliance, and then also provide a clear path for their service vehicles. So our team again went to work on furniture assortment recommendations as well as layouts. And then we went ahead and did some renderings for them. You can see there's a variety of lounge furniture, dining furniture. There's even a custom bench. You can see the really long bench with the teak and stainless steel. And again, using planters to kind of frame it out. So these were the renderings. And then here are some examples of the finished installation. Again, our team was able to go and construct everything and set it up. I'm not sure if it looks like that now because obviously not the most social distance layout, but that was what it looked like pre-pandemic. I wanted to end by sharing our college and university rep, Libby Jones. Hopefully most of you know her, but if you don't, her contact information is here on this slide. You can see her email and phone number at the bottom. Libby's always available to work with you to listen about any projects that you have coming up, any goals, and she'll work with you on recommended furniture assortments. And if you are looking to get any layouts done or 3D renderings, she can work with our teams to have that done for you. And there's also some fun facts here about Libby, so you can learn more. But anyway, again, she's always available if you want to reach out. All right, well, I'll stop sharing and then we can take any questions. Let me turn on.
Questions coming in. One of the first questions that was asked is, why are roots notched?
Yep, I can answer that. I don't know. So the notching basically cuts the root off at the ground and it cuts the water supply to the tree. And that helps it slowly reduce moisture intake to the tree so it retains as much natural oil as possible and sort of slowly loses moisture and eventually will be much drier when we harvest it.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Next question, is there a sustainability organization that accredits teak plantations that we should look for?
Yeah, I mean, several countries have their own versions of this, but probably the most widely known one is the FSC. FSC credits anywhere from the plantation to the factory where things are produced, and then all the way to the end company selling the product to you. So it's usually the entire chain of custody that they're focused on. So everyone along that chain needs to be credited. I believe they go in annually, maybe it's every 5 years, something like that, and review each part of the chain of custody to make sure they're following the latest guidelines and making sure they're being as ecologically focused as possible.
Okay, well, thank you for that answer. Our next question is there a reason that outdoor teak furniture can't or shouldn't be used indoors?
No, I'm happy to answer that one too. Stephanie, I think you're muted again.
Sorry. Do you want to answer that one, or do you want me to?
Sure, yeah, there's no reason why you can't use teak furniture indoors. The only thing that may come up, usually indoor furniture is finished or sealed in some way. And just because teak is so oily, you have to be really careful with what you finish it with. But of course, you could use it natural. Plenty of people do that in spas and bathroom settings. And there was a huge trend in the 70s, the 60s and 70s to have lots of teak furniture for dining tables and dining chairs. Lots of people still have that and love it. I don't know exactly what they used on it to probably some kind of oil or wax that probably has to be cleaned and reapplied every so often.
Yeah, I would say I use teak in my dining room, and I think the only thing to be aware, I didn't put any finishes or anything on it. The only thing to be aware of is it is going to get that darker in color. But as long as you're okay with that, then, I say go for it.
And we have another question. Will teak grow in Canada?
No, unfortunately, I don't think so. Teak requires, you can see if you look at maps where it grows, and it's sort of right very close to the equator in that humid sort of tropical environment. That's where it does best. We would love if we could grow it here in the US, or certainly in Canada, but I don't think that will work out.
Okay. Well, thank you. I thought it was an interesting question, so I thought I'd put it out there. So.
Oh, it's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next question. What product can be applied to a piece of furniture after sanding? Here at the college, we have existing furniture that has been extremely weathered, and I've been asked to refinish the item.
Yeah, so the first thing you want to do if it's extremely weathered is clean it. You might be surprised how clean you can get it with just mild dish soap and water. Hose it down, scrub it with a bristle, nylon bristle brush or scrub pad, something like that. And just soap will do a huge deal of good there, cleaning it up. If you wanted to do some intense cleaning, there's some other products on the market. We sell something called our two-part cleaner. It is an acid and a base, and it really will strip off the surface layer of dirt there, so you don't have to scrub as hard. Once you get it cleaned, then there's lots of options again for sealing it. We've done extensive testing here with all kinds of sealers, and we found that a water-based sealer actually does the best, much better than a urethane or something like that, just because those are going to fight with the oil that's already in the teak, and they can eventually peel and lift off. We sell quite a few aesthetic sealers that are water-based, and they can last for 2 or 3 seasons a lot of times, even in public spaces. And we just do some light touch-ups, but that lasts the longest for us.
Yeah, I think it depends on your goal, like we mentioned. So if you're really trying to achieve a certain color, right, that's where some of our sealers come in. We have the golden sealer and a gray sealer. I think there might even be some black sealers out there. Or if you want to just keep it either the gray, the weathered gray, or the blonde color, like Kim mentioned, after the more intense cleaning, then you can put some protectants on it. So whether it's, like a mildew shield to prevent it from getting mold, or if it's like a dining table, for example, and you want to put a stain guard on there so that it, with all the use of food and drinks and things like that, it doesn't stain, you can do that as well. So I think there's a lot of options. It really just depends kind of what your end goals are.
Yeah, we also,
thank you.
If you want to, we can share after this. We have a pretty intense Caring for Teak page on our website which lists every scenario you could think of for cleaning and end result. So that's a really good source.
Yep, we can make sure everybody gets that.
Okay, well, thank you. The next question that comes is talking about warranty. Is there anything that would basically make the warranty null and void?
The only thing I can think of, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you know, if I'm trying to figure out the right way to say this, if the furniture is abused in any way, right? I think sometimes that's where, you know, the warranty might not kick in. But otherwise,
you see a lot of benches that are hit by lawnmowers for some reason.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
I can think of an outside force that obviously is not going to be covered under warranty. The other one is storm damage. A lot of times limbs come down, trees come down. That's, you know, that's out of our control. There's nothing wrong with the product in that case. It's just an environmental factor. But we specifically do have lots of replacement parts that we can always send you, so you don't have to replace your entire bench. You can just replace the slat that's broken or the leg that's broken. We make sure things are interchangeable as the years go by because we want you to have our furniture for as long as possible.
Okay, thank you very much for that information. Well, that looks like we're at the end of our questions. Oh, one just popped in. It says, we will be having students help with our campus walk Teak benches this fall. They were previously pressure washed. What are your suggestions for us to approach smoothing out rough surfaces and future care?
Yeah, so again, you're not going to pressure wash anymore. Either a cleaning product or, as we said, just mild dish soap and water. If you're scrubbing with an abrasive pad, sort of like a Scotch-Brite or a nylon brush, that actually does a lot of sanding itself as you're cleaning, so you'll smooth out the surface just doing that. And then after that, you can use sandpaper or you can use, we recommend like a rotary handheld sander. And then always go in the direction of the grain, as Stephanie mentioned before. And you can get it smooth, looking pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll make sure that, as Kim mentioned, we have a great page on our website and also a PDF that we'll get to Billy so she can circulate that really goes through all the different scenarios and how you care for Teak. So it sounds like that would be something that would be valuable for everyone. So we'll make sure we get that over to her.
Okay. Well, thank you. That looks like that now concludes all of our questions. So Stephanie and Kim, thank you so much for taking time to teach us about Teak today. I really appreciate it. I've learned a lot. And to our attendees, during these trying times, we really appreciate that you take the time to come sit with us for an hour to learn about our webinars. So until next week, be safe, stay healthy, and take care of one another. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.